Rescue Ace really did it. Make sure you smash the living crap out of that subscribe button so you guys don't miss out more content. So regionals have been really firing up here, and we've had the chance to see some very interesting choices being played by the player base. Now, this event had double Draco Tale representation. Obviously, I think Draco Tale still kind of remains one of the little best contenders you can kind of pick up and play, at least until Blazing Dominion comes out here, or a ban list comes around and bonks the deck on the head, whichever comes first. But the whole point of this deck is it's been really, really shining. And, you know, the Fallen of Light has just rapidly helped this deck out quite a lot. Now, we did have two Yummy variants here. Now, both of these Yummy variants actually tell a completely different story. One is going to be with Fiendsmith cards. The other variant is going to be with the Radiant Typhoon package. Now, we've seen the Radiant Typhoon stuff kind of being discussed before. It's nothing new. It's just, you know, how much turbo access do you want to have to go down the little different lines just to maximize and build your play lines, which I do think is fine. We do have Magnet Warriors showing here as well. Magnet Warriors have been a great challenger to the meta. And I do think when you kind of functionally get to look at the way that the list plays, it's always a really cool story. We also had Vanquish Soul, a pretty standard challenger, and of course we do see the Rescue Ace deck actually winning this event, which I'm gonna clap for, man. It is a huge accomplishment to be able to overcome the meta, especially with something like Vanquish Soul. Now, look at these deck costs me, $158, $144. When your top meta is like sub $200, I really do think things are looking a little bit better for the meta. Now, we got to go dig into your first place Rescue Ace deck. $157 on the open market price here. So the first interesting tech choice I see here is we're actually playing Pyre Map. I see we've taken a memo out of the Yummy deck, and we've decided to integrate this into our deck. And honestly, it probably wasn't a bad idea. Making sure that you can get to Hydrant is the critically most important tool that you can have access to. If you do not have access to Hydrant, you may as well just pack this deck up and call it a day. Now, I am very surprised to see that, you know, this deck did kind of outgrind a lot of the meta competition. But you got to remember, this deck has tools to be able to kind of, you know, overcome some of the craziness that this meta does have to offer. So, you know, I can't exactly, you know, say that's bad. Also, we're, what, 42 cards in the main deck, which is actually not terrible. You've also got one of each of the good spells. You're playing one of the field spell as well. You've got pretty much everything that you need to have access to. And of course, you know, shockingly enough, you do have access to the Zealantis, go down the crazy OTK line, and obviously, you know, kind of win the game from there. We also do have Arbitrator in here as a one-of Arbitrator, giving you that good option to be able to play the game. I know some lists were trying to play multiple Arbitrator. I just don't think you need it. You're to build back up to a field to be able to make the second Arbitrator just doesn't really feel that important. I mean, if it gets extra deck ripped, well, I feel like there's way more important things in this extra deck that the opponent would want to be able to snipe out before they actually start to go for that. So is definitely an interesting discussion for that. Now, Magnet Warriors with Sam. So if you've noticed, a majority of the Magnet Warrior list have just pretty much cut out all of the extra fat. You know, the Berserkion and all that we saw in the early list, they're no longer here. I do see that we are playing the Infernal Punisher here. Now, Infernal Punisher lets you add a water dinosaur monster from your deck to your hand. Then you could technically special summon it to the opponent's field, but you're actually going to go search for the Duo Tyrion here. by actually playing the Infernal Punisher in the main deck, you are maximizing your results to actually get to the Magnet Bonding. So technically, this deck is playing 7 copies of Magnet Bonding because that is the most important part of your deck. Now, interesting enough, I mean, we are playing the Kawaki Mario Extender and the Guardian here. Guardian's job is to make sure that you can kind of have a little bit of a protection layer set up so you can kind of play the game. I also see we are doing Adamantipator, good stuff down here in the side deck, along with the Spell Negate and an additional Monster Negate down here. Kind of find those little extra options, kind of make sure that, you know, we can play the game. So, yeah, also, we do have access to the Natty Beast. You know, as much as, you know, we don't like having our spells negated, you know, Naturia Beast does typically end up being a great little piece to help this deck actually do its job. Next up here, we have Zachary's branded Draco Tale special. Now, I will say what I have said every one of these profiles. A lot of these lists do kind of blend together. You know, if you're looking for like some cool cheeky innovation, I mean, like a lot of the best differences of lists you're going to get is like how many Blazing Cartesi are we going to play? You know, this list is choosing to play the one instead of the extenders. I see we're also playing Magna Hut. I mean, look, man, you got dragons. You know what you're looking for in this deck. 2 branded fusions to drop the Frixel to kind of go. It looks like we've got droplets in the main deck to kind of feed off of some of the extra resources we can get. This list is not playing the Fenrir. I do like having access to the Fenrir. I do think that the Fenrir does end up being a little funny little option that you can kind of do, especially in the side deck where, you know, you can special summon it, recur for another Fenrir, and you've got a fusion material to kind of feed off of to at least kind of build up that field and kind of spin up and do your thing. Outside of that, I mean, we're playing Mistaken Arrest. I don't really think the rest of this build is necessarily too crazy to say, but, you know, this is still projected to be one of the best meta decks. You know, we are a month away from Blazing Dominion smashing into our meta, so I do think when Blazing does touch down, you will possibly start to see this deck get checked a little bit more, but I think time will really shift around with that one. Next up here, we have Vanquish Soul. Vanquish Soul, you know, for this deck being left in its current shape, it definitely feels a little bit weird. I mean, still, you're only going to be playing the 1 copy of Noroi. I do see that this list has gotten a little bit cheekier than the normal list. We're just playing the 2 copies of Heavy Borger. Quite honestly, having access to the Borgermeister is kind of an important thing to this deck. And it amazes me that, like, people get away with choosing to play the 1, because every time I've at least looked at these lists, I really feel like I want to have the second Borger just to be able to do the kickback bounce of the hand and just kind of feel like, you know, I can navigate and be able to play the game. I also see, yes, my favorite Dimensional Fissure, the card that can ruin players' days. Fun fact, a lot of people have been requesting Dimensional Fissure actually get banned here. So don't be like surprise Pikachu faced here if, like, in the future you might see this card actually get banned, because quite honestly, it is kind of a ban-worthy card to actually kind of pressure around here and be able to, you know, have it exit the game. But outside of that, I mean, I don't really see anything too crazy with this list. It all looks pretty standard. And then our last list here is going to be the Yummy Good Stuff. Now, this little card right here, being able to modify, is some of the funniest shit that you can do with this deck, because it just allows you to kind of cheat around and do some stupid things. You know, you want to make a light fiend monster? Congratulations. You're able to do that. Also, you know, depending on how things open up, you know, Carmelia is now one of the best little option pieces that this deck has access to, because it just ends up unfolding and allowing you access to effectively do everything that the deck wants to do at this stage, which is already ridiculous as it is. Like, Konami, you might want to do something about at least the fact that this deck can kind of just do whatever it wants to at this point. I see we're also playing the Yummy Assist. We've also got the Triple Delta, the Gamma, and the Driver. We have the entire whole brick family in here actually coming along and helping us, which I guess isn't actually too bad. So another regional in the books, I was very just curious like how Rescue Ace was kind of shaping up, because it's just a little bit of an oddity at the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? So please leave a comment down below, tell me what you guys think, and I'll see your beautiful faces back here in a day, guys. Patrons, thank you.
Thank you so much for watching. Check out these other videos.